All right, welcome back to Texas A&M Aggies Live, part of the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Cameron Ohnysty, joined as always by my co-host, Kannon Torres. We have a lot to talk about today. Spring football, the 2026 spring football season for Texas A&M starts on Friday officially. Mike Elko, new OC Holman Wiggins, a new DC Lyle Hemphill all spoke today. Had a lot to say. We're going to talk about that at the end of the show. But first, we have a fantastic guest, one of the best analysts out there for college football. I mean, he's going to do a lot of breakdowns of almost every team, probably almost every top 25 team, I think, preseason. So everybody out there, just check this guy out, Landon Tengwall. Tengwall is on the show. Man, yeah, I get your name right. Is it Tengwall?
Yes, sir. Got
Perfect. Me. My last name's Ohnysty, so people can't pronounce that at all, so you're good. But yeah, man, you did a fantastic just overall breakdown of Texas A&M, kind of looking forward to the 26th season after they landed 17 transfer portal additions. They got 26 incoming freshmen, 25 already on campus. One is arriving this summer from the 26 recruiting class. Just a ton of talent coming in, a lot of young guys, but a lot of veterans replacing, I can't even correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 20-plus players.
Yes.
Out there.
Multiple double digits.
Yeah, 20 with the transfer portal guys they lost, which were a lot of reserve guys. And then 13 were invited, I think it was the most in the country, to the NFL Combine. So a ton of talent lost. But Mike Elko was preparing for this. I mean, he's preparing for it before the 25 season began. He knew that especially certain positions, he was going to lose those guys. You got to think of guys like Cassius Howell, who had a breakout season after 2 seasons in College Station, named unanimous All-American, slated to be a first-round pick. Wide receiver Casey Concepcion, who was a breakout guy after transferring from NC State. He's a baller. He's probably going to be a first-round pick. And then starting left guard Chase Basantis, who could have come back, but heard from his agent and all the draft guys that you're most likely going to be a low first, second-round pick. The money's there. Go, young man. Would have loved to have him back because he's a fantastic player. And it's fun to watch him squat. Those videos of him squatting are always very fun to watch the guy pull up it's like 750 pounds or something. It's insane. But yeah, man, it's a new crop of players with a lot of returning guys. And I mean, I'd be remorse to not start with the most important position at quarterback. Marcel Reed is returning for his 3rd season in the program. It's his 2nd season and 2nd full starting season. A lot of people remember during the 24 season, he was trading snaps with Connor Wegman, who ended up transferring to Houston. It was kind of a weird year. Marcel ended up taking over as a starter, was playing very, very well during the middle part of the season. I think they started 7-1, and then kind of the downfall came, losing, it was like 4 out of 5 or something like that. I mean, it was a while ago now, but either way, he solidified that spot. He is dealing with, obviously, like I said at the start of the show, a new offensive coordinator in Holman Wiggins. I think all of us know who he is. I think most college football fans, especially Alabama fans, know who Holman Wiggins is, serving as Nick Saban's longtime assistant head coach and wide receiver coach. So the guy knows what he's doing, but this is his 1st season as an offensive coordinator and a play caller. So it is going to be very interesting what he adds, what doesn't or does change. So I'm going to start off with my personal question, and Can's got a lot of good ones too. I watched your full breakdown of Marcel. I think it was probably the best I've watched, and we talked about the show. I've seen a lot of guys in this industry do their best. A lot of it was more criticism than praise, and I always hated that because you kind of heard, it's kind of like Arch Manning and a lot of the other quarterbacks out there. There were a lot of, not excuses, but more of the shine, okay, this guy, because he was a 5-star prospect and he blue chip recruit and somebody who we have a lot of, there's a lot of potential there essentially. So we're always going to look at the positives first. Marcel's really never gotten the benefit of the doubt in my opinion. But what you said was perfect. And this is what we focused on too, is that you're praising his arm strength, but you did talk about the need for quicker processing, better decision-making overall, getting a little too antsy in the pocket, I think the game that really stood out was the Texas game. A&M was a better team at that time than Texas, in my opinion. I think they took advantage of Marcel just mentally not being there early, and he kind of turned things around late. But then, after Texas took a lead and the defense really just started to tee off on him, it got pretty ugly, and he started to do the things we hate to see, which is throwing those late interceptions, forcing balls, not using his legs when he needs to, and really just kind of staying in a pocket. And, it just didn't look natural anymore. And we've also seen games last season, especially against South Carolina, where A&M is down, was it 30-3 at the half? I keep forgetting. And probably the best quarterback performance I've seen all year in that kind of effort. Granted, he had a lot of help from his wide receivers and his offense as a whole, but the potential is there. And he does have a new quarterback coach in Joey Lynch, who again, a lot of people didn't know who Joey Lynch was. Joey Lynch was it was and has been a longtime coordinator. He was most successful at Ball State when he was OC for a couple of years. I think he was a Broyles Award nominee, so he has some success in his background. Kind of disappeared after things did not work out at Vanderbilt during the ugly Vanderbilt days. So I think a lot of people get the axe, and it was hard to get jobs because nobody was paying attention to them anymore. Now they are, so there's a different story there. But with him coming and taking over that job, I mean, my biggest thing is what are they going to focus on this offseason? So really, what does Marcel Reed have to do to take that next step? As cryptic as that sounds, I think a lot of people are going, okay, what is that though? What is that next step? But after your breakdown, what do you think that is specifically? And what do you think Lynch has to do this offseason to help that come to fruition?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Marcel Reed's next step is like, he's shown the ability to do everything. It's not like he needs to take the next step in this area, and he's never shown the ability to do it. And I think the number one area, like you said, is kind of processing the field and trusting his ability to get through his reads. Now, you had a very good offensive line. The way this looks, and we can talk about this a little bit later, but I think this is going to also be a very good offensive line, albeit, some transfers getting in the mix. But I think you did a really good job if you're Mike Elko piecing this offensive line together for Marcel Reed. But, I see these moments where I love how quick he is going from read 1, not there, read 2, read 3. And sometimes, like, it almost is there, but, like, I'm okay. Like, if you're getting through your reads, that's fine with me. And then I have this, like, internal fight of, like, sometimes I see Marcel Reed where he goes read 1, read 2, and if read 2 isn't there, he's just taken off. And he's so electric. And it's like, I want you to keep taking off, but then there's these times where he doesn't get to read number 3, and if he got to 3, it's like wide open, and there's no one on that side of the field. So like there's this, and I feel like if I'm Joey Lynch, if I'm Wiggins, like I will have like the same almost internal fight of like I don't want to coach him out of just taking off because that's one of his best abilities and how he can just really just cause issues for defensive coordinators. But at the same time, I want him to take that next step because I think he is easily one of the most talented quarterbacks in all of college football. It's not even a question. I said it in my film breakdown. Every time he steps on the field, I think he is one of the most gifted people on the field. I've never it sounds cliche because I feel like a lot of people will do it, but like I haven't seen that type of acceleration and deceleration where you can just stop on a dime since Lamar Jackson. Like he had a play, I believe, against LSU on the goal line where Harold Perkins was coming full speed and he did the like run and just completely stop. And Harold Perkins like flew past him. And it reminded me of the Lamar Jackson high school clip. I think everybody's seen it where Lamar's in like the purple Tiger jersey and he like stops and the guy shoots past him. Then he walks into the end zone. Like that's the vibes he gives me. It's just, it was so athletic. He has a fantastic arm. You know, a lot of people talk about how he brings the ball back and it's a little low. If he had like a really slow motion, who was the Auburn quarterback that they paid a ton of money for? And he's got the really wonky throwing motion. I don't know if you guys
Byron Brown.
Brown, yeah. If it was like that bad and it was like slower, I'd have a problem. But like Marcel Reed has like, it's just like a whip. It's just like boom. And it's so quick that I don't have a problem with that. Like if I'm Joey Lynch, I'm not taking the time right now to like rework his throwing motion. I think it's completely fine. But that's my biggest thing is just like, hey, let's continue to work on the processing. But I want to be careful of coaching him out of just taking off because those are some of the most electric reps you see on his tape when he sees it and he's like, oh, I got a hole right there. Like, boom, he is out of there. And I think obviously what's so interesting is, and I posted this after I spent a whole Saturday watching literally every single game of his from the 2025 season. And it was such a roller coaster. But I understand what you mean, where people want to be so quick to just be like, hey, let's talk about the negatives. There was so much positive. Like, I almost like fell in love with this guy. Like, yes, there's obviously things to work on. And you get these roller coaster games, LSU, South Carolina, where it's just like, I'm seeing one guy and then I'm seeing the other. And it just keeps going back and forth. But you just see that he can be one of the most talented guys in all of college football. And that's what I think gets Wiggins and Lynch excited about Marcel Reed is just what he can do when he is at his best. Now, how can we get you at your best all the time or, 90% of the time? I think that's his next thing. And I think a big piece of it too, is you kind of talked about it in some of these games against some of these bigger opponents, it got a little jumpy. His mechanics would get a little a little jumpy from a standpoint of just feet moving a little quicker than his brain is moving, and you can just tell he's not all the way comfortable. There are some curl routes, like throwing right to the flats.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why did you throw that? Like it didn't make any sense. Like the processing is just like, I need to be a little bit better there. But then on the next play, I think kind of the conception is like Miami, when he played Miami, was like a really bad game. Well, it was incredibly windy, and you can see that on some balls. They just take off, and they're just like this through the air. So it wasn't a great game necessarily for him. I understand that. But there was a lot of stuff I saw on tape where I was still I like that. That was probably a pretty good game in terms of him trying to read the defense. He was just playing an incredibly good defense and was dealing with huge wind gusts. But I don't know. There's just so much I love on this guy's tape. It's hard for me not to be a Marcel Reed truther right now. This is probably the number one offense I'm most excited to watch. Once I watched all of them, I'm like, oh, and I obviously I knew about Mario Craver, and I was studying them a little bit earlier in the season, but I'm like, it popped off. I think you got so many weapons, and dude, I really fell in love with Bethel Roman. I don't think he's talked about enough in the overall college football landscape, because I can't tell you how many times I wrote down number 3 on my notepad, and I'm like, he's going to be a dude this year. He's going to put everybody on notice. So I think you got those weapons. I think you're piecing together a really good offensive line. You're coming off a very dominant offensive line, and you're going to try to give that again to Marcel Reed. But it's hard not to like what this guy brings to the table. So overall, the biggest things are not having that jumpy presence. Take that deep breath before that play and go through your reads and just trust it.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about the reads that Marcel Reed was making, that first read, that second read, and a lot of it was that first read being now NFL first round potential Casey Concepcion, and the electricity that he brought with Marcel when he wasn't already being thrown the ball. Marcel Reed was taken off down the sideline. So that duo of electricity was kind of put on full showcase this entire past season. Now, we've fallen in love with what KC did here in College Station, but they are now saying, hey, we are continuing on with guys like Mario Craver, Ashton Bethel Roman, who you said Terry Bussey comes back as an all-purpose kind of receiver. But a guy that they went out and got when it looked like Cam Coleman was going more towards the Texas route is Alabama transfer Isaiah Horton. So as someone who is very, very much wide receiver enamored, I've always tended to see what are the ways that you can have a next man up mentality, even with a newcomer coming in. So how are you able to see now the difference in the offensive structure under Holman Wiggins with Isaiah Horton coming in as a bigger body type receiver rather than Casey Concepcion?
Yeah, no, I think you get 6'4", really long body.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you got so many different things you can do on offense. I've seen I was kind of every time I study a new team, I kind of try to dig around and get a sense from the fan base. What are the overall themes? What are they thinking? And, then I try to kind of watch the film and kind of match all of that up. And I think at times last year, honestly, I'll be honest, the biggest thing for me, I loved how the offense operated for the most part until we got in the red zone. And then it just felt like a lot of it didn't make sense. A lot of the 5 wide stuff and trying to make Marcel Reed process defenses when the field is shrunk. And that always kind of you have this offensive line that is just going to maul people. You have some great running backs. I'm like, hey, let's get in 1 running back, 2 tight end personnel, 12 personnel, and let's run it down their throat. Let's get Marcel Reed on a little boot action, get him moving, which sometimes you did out of the pistol, but it just doesn't have the same effect. So, I think with the wide receiver, you just have a ton of weapons again. I don't think it wasn't they did a poor job of being able to spread it around. I think you can take those jump balls to Isaiah Horton and allow him to use that height. But I think you're going to have an electric offense again. That's just my biggest thing, because you look at Marcel Reed and, his interceptions, and 6 out of the 12 came inside the opponent's 25-yard line. And so I look at that. I'm like, okay, if I am Wiggins and I'm stepping up and I'm saying, okay, what needs to change from Klein's offense? What is the big thing? That's what I would look at. I would look at high red zone offense, and how can we make that more efficient for the wide receivers to get involved, to have it make it easier for Marcel Reed, where he's not reading defenses, where we're not in 5 wide. I think there was a couple against LSU where we're in 5 wide deep and forcing him to read, and safeties are reading his eyes and throws a pick right in the end zone. And so I think this offense has, like I said, I think it has the talent to be maybe one of the most explosive offense in college football. I think dang sure it can be one of the most fun to watch with everybody that they have at their disposal. It's just how you're going to put it together. You went out and you decided to go with a first-time play caller who, as you said, I absolutely love Wiggins. When he was at Virginia Tech, he actually gave me my first offer ever. So I'll never forget that 2017, shaking his hand in like my head coach's office in high school, and I kind of phased out a little bit. But I always loved him. I always kept a great, I always hit him because he was just such a great guy. So I'm very excited for him to get this opportunity. But you went out and you said, hey, we're going to get a first-time play caller from Marcel Reed in the biggest year of his career. So there's a little bit of that risk reward. You could have went out and gotten some type of, quarterback guru, but we've also seen that not work out. And I am very much, and I think as many A&M fans are, in the trust Mike Elko mindset. He's got the full reins. Let's see what he can do. So I think it's going to be an explosive offense. I think these wide receivers, they're going to find many of ways for them to get involved. But that'll be my number one thing that I'm looking at is kind of that red zone offense. If I'm Joey Lynch, if I'm Wiggins and company.
Yeah, that actually leads to another of my questions, because this is one that we've been kind of stuck on. Going to the rushing attack. Last year was kind of weird because this group did average. This was combined with Marcel Reed taking off and being that true dual threat option. But it was the combination of speed and power. After Le'Veon Moss went down, I wouldn't say it completely dropped off, because there were great games where Ruben Owens rushed for over 100 yards. He had a career night against Mississippi State. He looked the part, but at the same time, it was one of those things where he just wasn't there yet to be that trustworthy number one back. And I think it has to do with his skill set. I think all the injury issues have kind of stacked up, and he just wasn't his complete self yet. There were moments, but at the same time, I don't know if it had to do with scheme. I don't know if it had to do with wear and tear down the stretch, but this rushing attack was basically useless over the last 2 games. I honestly, I'd have to look back at the numbers. Things like 50 yards against Texas, and is probably equal to that against Miami. Granted, those were 2 really good defenses. But what I noticed, what Kannon noticed, I think what every A&M fan noticed, was a lack of physicality. And you look at how Miami got to the national championship game. That was physical running. That was, smart quarterback play by Carson Beck, big plays in the passing game. And the running back's name is Mark Fletcher. He is not a generational back, but he is a very rare type of athlete that, especially behind that great offensive line, was just a bruiser. Watching him was, I'm going to be honest, was beautiful to watch. Even after they beat A&M, I was like, I can't wait to watch these guys again. I love watching this kid, and I wish A&M had a guy like that, to be honest with you, because you're talking about Marcel Reed having complemented by a good rushing attack. We're talking A&M getting past the first round of the CFP, getting possibly to the semifinals, because if the running game is working, Marcel's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, in my opinion. When it's off, he's one-dimensional. Like you said, he forces balls. He doesn't go to his third read. He sees his second, then he's like, okay, I don't know what to do, either run, or then the defense kind of catches up and it's all kablooey. But what does this group have to do to take that next step? And I think that's even the most important question, because personally for me, and I don't know if Kannon agrees, but I do trust that Wiggins, because he does have that background. He learned from Colin Klein. He's been around all these great offense, including Steve Sarkisian, to be honest with you. He's been around all these guys throughout his career. So I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be judged more by red zone offense, to be honest with you. I think most OCs are. Colin Klein certainly was. But I'm not too worried about his play calling. And I think Joey Lynch is a veteran. I think that the quarterback coach thing gets a little overrated, unless you're just horrendous at your job and the quarterback takes a big step back. I think he'll be okay. But I think if this running game that now includes freshman KJ Edwards, Tiger Ridden is a guy who there's not a lot of film, so I don't think you really saw him a lot. I think the only game he really played in was the Sanford win, right, Kannon? I think that's probably the only game he appeared in. But he's another name that's a bigger back But I personally believe that Reuben Owens is going to add more weight this offseason. They're going to try to get that body ready for taking more hits, for being an A and B gap type of runner, being that dependable guy when it's 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, and you need a first down. So I don't know if it's going to be a blend of all these guys, because there's a lot of ESPN and a lot of articles by KJ Edwards, who they believe is going to be a big part of this rushing attack. And I mean, I can't wait till spring ball starts, because we hope to see him on the field. We hope to see him take a lot of reps, and we see that speed, we see that agility. But at the same time, you just can't trust a freshman. So honestly, do you believe that Reuben Owens is going to be that number one guy and that they can kind of turn him into that physical running back? Or is this more of like an O-line thing? Was that one of the things you saw? Because I know we're going to get into the O-line, because I'm fascinated what you have to say about these new additions. But is this a two-way street? Is it more on Reuben Owens just playing better?
Yeah, look, I definitely think there was times where, there was plenty of times where he flashed for me. Obviously, I basically watched the entire offense last year. And so, there was a lot of times that I wrote down his number, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I think he can be a dude. And even making guys miss spin moves, jump cuts, like seeing it pretty well. But I'm with you. I think there is definitely that next step he needs to take, because that is the number one thing you look at. If you want to compare Marcel Reed's bad games, go and also look at those bad games and look at the rushing attack and see what it did. And almost every single time, the rushing attack was really bad, kind of like what you said when Marcel Reed had a bad game. And I think part of that is like Marcel Reed now, when you're like, he was the dude last year, but now you're really the dude. So there is going to be a little more times where we're like, hey, we need you to just take over. But any quarterback, you got to give them a good rushing attack. And, I think what you're looking at with this run game is it's going to mainly be Reuben Owens, but who knows? Like I said, you got true freshmen coming in. I think you're going to see a little bit of a blend, but the biggest thing for me is just the offensive line being able to physically impose their will. And, a lot of questions. You got a decent group of younger guys, kind of some redshirt sophomores, redshirt freshmen that are getting in the mix, but then you have a ton of transfers that you went out and got, and guys you're confident in. Make sure I'm saying his name right. Mark Naboo?
Yes.
Naboo.
Mark Naboo,
yep. I loved his tape. I thought he was awesome. I think that's a great anchor that you were able to keep around. But now I just kind of start to, looking at these other guys' tape. One guy I really like, Cohen Eccles, guard from LSU. I think fans are going to love him. That is a old school mauler, exactly what you want out of your guards. He moves people out of the way. So I kind of just transitioned to the offensive line. I know
you're good. Yeah, I'm glad you're
going. But yeah,
you can link that in if you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think the running backs, I think they're gonna be fine. Like, I think Reuben Owens is a very talented back, and he's gonna continue to take that next step. But it really just, as a former offensive lineman, it really just does depend on how your offensive line looks.
Yeah.
If they're putting you in bad situations, and especially now you're facing these defenses, especially in the SEC, where not only is there a ton of talent, but it's never been harder to be an offensive line in the run game, because there's never been more twists and stunts. And as the ball snaps, this defensive tackle slanting from this gap to the other gap. So defenses are getting like more and more complicated. As we know with Mike Elko running the crazy blitz pressures, all that type of stuff, like we're starting to see more and more of that in all of college football. So it's getting harder for offensive linemen to be as physical, because they're having to pick up all this movement, all this crazy stuff going on. But you still need to make sure you keep that element of, hey, like, I want to get into some games this year where we go out there and we count on this offensive line to just straight up dominate. And we're just moving guys from point A to point B against their will, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think that's where you talk about Reuben Owens adding a little bit of weight and just being a little more physically imposing. You were talking about Mark Fletcher, Miami's running back. I'll never forget, after the Ohio State game and obviously watching the A&M game, I did a 25-minute film breakdown on just how Miami's the most physical offense in America.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it took them very, very far. And so I think you established that identity with extremely explosive wide receivers that are very well could be up there for one of the most talented wide receiver rooms in America, and maybe the most dynamic quarterback. I'm not saying he's the best coming into this year, but I think he could very well, you could give him the label, the most dynamic quarterback in college football. It's got a lot of good written all over it. But there's this question now, like, how is Wilkin Formby going to look? Is he going to be the dude? I really enjoyed his tape. Like, this is a big old body at tackle, and someone that I think he was starting to really figure it out. One thing I loved about him in pass pro is like he figured out that he can just eat a bull rush. Like, this is a massive human being, and to me, that is one of, I think, 6'7", 325. That is one of the most important attributes that a tackle can have, is the ability to just kind of recover and just take on bull rushes and just kind of absorb them. Because you see a lot of these offensive tackles, they can struggle at times. They can get that edge beat on them. And I think that's Will Conformity's probably number one liability, if you want to say, is like sometimes when he's facing those wide nines, think, Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor from Miami when they were in those really wide nines. And that's where, he's not the best where he has to move a ton. But I mean, I really liked everything. He can maul in run game. So there's a lot to like there. And then I'm really curious about Tyree Adams, Cohen Eccles' teammate. They played together. They played next to each other, left guard and left tackle at LSU. And you're probably looking to keep that going. A little bit, plays a little bit lighter. Not exactly sure. I think his measurements, he's also 6'7", but a little bit lighter, more like 3'5", 3'10" in that realm. So I'm curious to see what kind of, if he is going to take that next step to be a little bit more physical, because that was the one place I felt like he was lacking. You see that he's a clear athlete. He's long. He can move and pass pro. He can cover ground. But that next step for him and talking about an offense that you want to be physically imposing, I think your left tackle has got to be there too, or whoever will conform you if they move around. But that Tyree Adams is definitely someone I'm keeping a big eye on coming out of spring ball. But look, I mean, you get to the point where you can be a physically imposing offense and have just the dynamic athletes that you have on this squad at quarterback, wide receiver. That's why I think Texas A&M should be considered for one of the best offenses in college football. They just got to put it all together, and so does Wiggins.
Awesome. I was going to say it's a big year for Adam Cushing.
Yes.
There was rumors that he could potentially leave to go to Michigan State. I think that was the rumored job because of his ties with the now current head coach. But again, getting him back was huge and I think Elko did everything in his power to get him back, because you can't go into a season replacing 4 starters with new guys, even though they are SEC starters. They have a ton of experience. They have the size necessary. But like you said, we're kind of unsure where Will Conformity's going to play. I mean, he could play. I mean, Elko's talked about it this offseason already that he could play left or right. Tyree's kind of the same way, but they maybe see Adams at right tackle more. Maybe that's a safer position for him. And because of Formby's versatility, maybe left, and they can depend on him there a little more. And I think that mainly has to do with pass protection. And there's a lot of moving parts there. And I think there's a lot of other guys. They feel like they have some depth with Blake Ivy, Ashton Funk's another name. They've been kind of developing this talent over the last 2 years. And I think it was six signees in the 25 class. So they've got the dudes there. Nelson McGuire's even a guy that's in the program that could make a little jump. Papa Afua is somebody who's now healthy, who is considered like a dominant run blocker. So there are a lot of names, but the guys you laid out, those 4 SEC starters from the portal, are likely going to be your starters along with Mark Naboo. And it's going to be very fascinating how he kind of switches things out, because again, if this O-line holds up and especially improve in the running game, I agree with you completely. I mean, I kind of hate asking that question too, because I do think it's mainly O-line. When I did some scouting stuff, I really got into O-line as well, even though I was way too small to ever play it. I loved it. It was always fun to just look at the technique guys, look at the pure power guys, and think, okay, if you have a blend of all these dudes, you're going to have a very, very solid group. And I think they have that now. But Ruben Owens is somebody who was a 5-star talent, has all the attributes to be a great running back. Who he's going to be in 26 is still kind of up in the air. Is he going to be a more physical back, or is he going to be similar to what we saw last year, which is more of a speed, agility guy when he gets in the open field? Kind of blending those other guys in is going to be fascinating too. But yeah, that's what one of the fun parts of having you on. We're going to definitely have you on probably in season, probably this summer, to talk more about this, because when we get more transparency about this group, I think that's when we can really start predicting how this offense can look next season.
Absolutely. And one thing I do want to add to, you talked about Blake Ivy, Ashton Funk, those guys. Like, I feel like if you do want to go and play 16 games, like, knock on wood, but like, you look at some of these teams that get deep, they got injuries. And like, offensive line is one of the most physical positions, and you have depth there. I think definitely more depth in the interior than you do outside, but like, you still have depth on this offensive line. I think that's incredibly important too. So I just want to throw that in there. I think that's very important for this offense as you continue to move forward and hopefully go deep into the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I think one of the best games, that's my last point with this, is during the 24 season was the road win over Florida. It was a rainy, messy game, and they controlled the line of scrimmage throughout. I mean, it was just physical run after physical run. Marcel using his legs. He wasn't really a developed passer yet, but you do think if he had that offense he has now around him with that O-line who just were determined to just control the line of scrimmage. That's how you win a national championship. That's how you get back to the CFP. And you play like that late in the year, this can be one of the best teams in the country because they certainly have the talent to do so. It's just putting it all together. So, I mean, that's the thing. That's why I love getting kind of outside observers because we do cover Texas A&M we cover the rest of the SEC too on the show, but at the same time, people will always kind of point to, well, they cover A&M, so they're being more potent. No, that's not how it works. If A&M had bad talent, if they didn't have a good team around them, me and Kannon would certainly be the first to say they don't have it. But
we're versatile.
Yeah, exactly.
We're versatile, right?
Yeah,
we're athletes in our own right.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, getting your perspective, kind of an outsider perspective, because look, you played at Penn State. People are going to say the same thing, like, well, you played at Penn State, so you got a little. No, that's not how it works, guys. It's just you know them better. We know A&M very well. We've seen the bad years. We've seen the good year last year, and we know we do trust that whole trust in Mike Elko thing, especially with these coaching elevations. It's very true because when they elevated secondary coach, we're going to get the defense right now because I got a good question. Unless Ken, you want to go first with yours for defense?
I'd love to. Yes. I was so interested when you guys were discussing depth just now, where it got me thinking of one of the deeper rooms that A&M does have in terms of depth is the safety room for this next season. So they're going to be switching out pretty much 3 guys across from, because they usually have a roamer where it comes from the back end. And Landon has a great film breakdown of incomer Tafik Bayard from Colorado, who is not only going to be a good addition, but Landon has said that he is tailor-made for Mike Elko's defense. So we already know what they're going to have with Marcus Ratcliffe being back there and Dalton Brooks being, just continually getting better. But Landon, why is Tafik Bayard such a scheme fit and such tailor-made for Mike Elko's defense?
Yeah, I mean, if for anybody that doesn't know, Tafik Bayard, he is a classic, throw him in the box safety. You want him around the line of scrimmage, flying in on a blitz. He has no fear that an offensive lineman's just going to, just jam him down in. He will slide underneath blocks. He is about just getting physical. And the other piece that I love is he has a really, especially for a safety that's always flying full speed, and you kind of see that from Dalton Brooks. He has a really, really low missed tackle percentage. It's right around 10%. I think it's 12%, which and for context, anybody that's 10% or lower missed tackle rate, I call that very good, almost elite tackler. But I also try to add context to that of how you play. If you're going to be a safety that's playing at full speed and every tackle is 10 yards away and you're getting downhill, I'm going to 12% is awesome. And just to give you I loved how Dalton Brooks played. My only negative was that he just had a lot of missed tackles. I think it's a 25% missed tackle rate, which is every 4th tackle is a miss. And that's where you get Tafik Bayard. That's a little more consistent. But the reason why I say he's tailor-made is just because I think Mike Elko is going to have so much fun with this guy. Send him off the edge, moving him all around. You can match him up. I really had some good coverage reps as well. But from I watched 4 games of his, and they did a lot with him at Colorado. But he was basically playing in the box almost as an extra linebacker, which we've started to see that happen more and more with these safeties and just kind of getting creative with them. And I think that's something you can do with a very talented safety room. But I love everything that I see from him. I actually grew up in the area, so I've been watching him for a long time. I remember when he was little, playing middle school ball when I think I was in high school at the time, and just a baller. So I'm excited to see what he can do. But like you said, you got a great safety room. I think he's going to have some of those plays where he's sent on strip sacks off the edge where he's unblocked. I can already smell it coming from Mike Elko.
I'm already trademarking the nickname the Maroon Bullet. So that's on the agenda. I just have to go through a couple more hoops.
Wait till the season starts. So you trademark that.
Hey, I'm getting on it early. So
yeah, there we go.
I love it.
But yeah, to kind of counter on that, you talk about kind of these guys playing linebacker more, playing in the box and being those kind of hybrid guys to help the run defense. Obviously, one of A&M's biggest acquisitions this offseason was linebacker Ray Coney. Ken and I talked all offseason about kind of the lack of physicality there, the lack of size. Even though Damian Sanford, who is one of the returners, is 6'2", he's over 220 pounds. I think he's going to become a better run defender this season. I think just working on it, getting strong in the weight room. He does have that size. Noah McHale is another 6'2", over 220-pound linebacker. He looked very good when he did play last year. It was kind of interesting. Every time he was on the field, like he's making stops. He was all over every kind of run snap. And it's good that they do have depth there, but they did need a replacement for Torres York, who was 5'11", and even though he was highly productive, I mean, great story starting since his freshman season, run defense was not really his game to this point. I mean, he could get better. I do think he will get better. He's certainly strong, putting up 25 reps at 225 at the combine. So I think he will get better at the next level, but it kind of dropped off at the end of the season, especially against those physical runs. Now, I will say that they did a pretty good job against Miami until the end of the game when Mark Fletcher just tore him apart for like a 50-yard run. You can't have that in those type of close games. But I love Ray Coney. I love his film. I mean, when they landed him, he was probably the most underrated transfer out there because nobody else was talking about him. I saw a couple smart football guys go, man, A&M really landed just a great guy in terms of that system fit and what Mike Elko can do with him. But what about his skill set? I know you did a personal breakdown. I actually didn't get a chance to watch that yet. I'm probably going to do that tonight. But what about that overall skill set that he brings has stood out? And how it's going to fit with what Mike Elko wants to do on defense? Sorry, I was tripping over our words there.
No, you're good. Yeah, so a couple things. So actually, I started watching Ray Coney after I watched one of your guys' shorts because I remember I was looking through the depth chart, and like I said, when I study these teams, I generally always try to get to the transfers for the most part. Sure. And that was like the last guy I hadn't gotten to yet. And I like clicked on his name and I was kind of like, who is this? And so I looked him up on YouTube and I saw one of your guys' shorts and you guys were like, yo, this guy's a dude. And I was like, all right, let me check this guy out. So I turn on the tape and I'm like, oh, and the first thing I always do is like, I go over to PFF and I just look up their name. And I'm not big into like their grades. I think that grade, like PFF gradings, it's all over the place. But I just like look at his like stats. And I think right away, I think I saw like 6 games with over 10 tackles. And yes. I'm like, and then with that, not only just all these games with a ton of tackles, I was talking about missed tackle percentage, which like I'm a little obsessed with because I love when I see a low missed tackle percentage. 7.3% missed tackle rate. I was thought like that's elite. That's especially for a linebacker, that is very, very high level. So I see all that and I turn on the tape, and it's a guy that just wants to fly around. He will lay a hit on you, not like over. He's not like a crazy physical linebacker, but like just so sound, and that's why he has the tackles and doesn't miss many tackles. Like such a sound football player. And then one thing I did see in the Tulsa defense is especially like on third down, they do a lot of the mugging the linebackers up. He was up over top of the center and just kind of that 2-point stance. He was lined up in the B gap on the outside. Like they did a lot of that with him. And you can guarantee you're getting that from Mike Elko. So that there's so much to be excited about on this guy's tape. I think this is one of the gems of the transfer portal. And then the other piece too is like I'm starting like you talk about guys like Tawfiq Bayard, Ray Coney. I think there's a lot of talent on this defense. I think we'll talk about the D-line in 1 second. But my number one thing that I look at is like you definitely had a lot of the same talent on last year's defense, but just going from, and I talked about this on my show about A&M, like you look at it and historically good third down defense last year. Like Mike Elko's third down defense last year, we're talking reached levels of like that hasn't been hit since like 2016. Like Michigan's defense 2016 was, I think, the third down percentage that they allowed, like all these different things. And like, yeah, you got Cassius Howell, who's an absurd rusher and can bend the edge like no other. But at the same time, you look and it's like you only had 2 all SEC guys on that defense last year. Mm-hmm. And one of them was first team, one of them was third team. So it wasn't like there was like to have this insane third down defense. It wasn't like there was just tons of talent. Like I said, very good, but it wasn't anything too crazy. It was Mike Elko's system. And now you plug in, I feel like you're getting some extra talent. You're getting these guys that you look at the tape and it's not just like, oh, I think that's pretty good. It's like, oh my gosh, like we got a dude, and you got a couple of those on defense. So that's what gets me excited. That's why I love Ray Coney. I think both of these pickups at a linebacker and at safety is something that Mike Elko's saying. He's licking his chops saying, I cannot wait to just unleash these guys. So I think he's got a really, really bright future. I'm excited to see him get to play some ball.
Yeah, and I think overall that his plan there is to have enough depth. I think having your starting rotation, which could include Mikhail, we just don't know yet. We do think it's going to be Damian Stafford and Ray Coney, but I think the safety play, having that depth now at safety, I mean that's a big part of their defense, especially when he just wants to tee off on third down. I mean, utilizing his athletes is a big part of that. And now having Tawfiq Bayard, having Marcus Radcliffe, who I guarantee is going to take that next step as a safety. I mean, that dude is a fantastic athlete. He had really only maybe one or two bad games. I think he really is against Texas. And I mean, people love to point out the bad games because you're having a lot of good games. That's the thing. Like, it's hard to nitpick the defense last year. That's why we focus on run defense, because that was really the glaring issue, even though in terms of the metrics and the stats, their run defense wasn't horrific. It just had bad games where they gave up too many explosive runs, and it just all kind of came at the end, resulting in back-to-back losses. But I mean, it's really hard to look at the defense as a whole. And you are totally right. Like, I think they have more talent now than they did last year, which is saying a lot, because I think they had a lot of unknowns and a lot of guys that had to prove going into that last season. I remember in the offseason, we were saying, like, we think this defense will be good. We just don't think it's going to be great. But because of that scheme, because of that work they put in with strength conditioning coach Tommy Moffitt in the summer, now you're getting all this influx of talent, guys who a lot of people think are NFL level players. So, I mean, I think this group could be elite next season. It just depends on just the buy-in and just the scheme and how these guys fit and what he wants to do. So, I mean, it's very, very exciting to watch.
Yeah, Landon, we cannot thank you enough for coming on tonight. I mean, we have absolutely loved what you've been bringing on your reviews of. I mean, it seems like every single day I'm seeing a different, breakdown of film. I know you're going through all these teams right now. So as we get you off the show here, where can the people find you? We'll have your links down in the description of this show, but where can they find you? What are you working on right now? And where can they look for you in the future?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Landon Tengwall, and then YouTube, you just type in Landon Tengwall. It should come up, but it's the Landon Tengwall Show on YouTube. Got a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, I'm in the middle of my top 10 series where each week I reveal a new team, and I basically just dive into their entire roster for about 7 days. I do film breakdowns on try to get through almost all of the starters and just kind of have some fun with it. And it started as me just kind of trying to learn about all the top teams. And I'm like, hey, why don't I include an audience with it and start to kind of put some stuff out there. So I've really enjoyed it. Definitely will be doing some more A&M. And like I said, I mean, it's always fun watching the A&M defense, but as soon as week one, I'm going to be turning on the A&M offense. That's someone I'm going to be going back to over and over. And then I have been I'm only in year 2 now of covering all of college football. I started out as a Penn State guy. So I'm kind of transitioning away from doing all Penn State into all of college football. So whenever A&M has some of those big matchups, I'm definitely going to be previewing them and kind of reviewing them with film. Especially I'll definitely be on that LSU game. I'm excited for a lot of it. So I appreciate you guys having me on. But yeah, be on the lookout. I'm definitely diving into a lot more SEC content as we continue on into the future.
Yeah, I can't wait for your LSU breakdown. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, what we're hearing is we got to have you back in September when A&M takes on LSU. Is that what it is?
Have to 100%.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The
sounds like era. A plan.
Ooh,
sounds like a plan, Landon. Well, again, thank you so much.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Go follow him. Go subscribe. Cannot recommend him enough.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
See you, buddy.
See you.
All right. So, I mean, again, you can't get better analysis than that. I mean, he's one of the best follows. I mean, it's funny. You follow A&M, you cover A&M for as long as I have, and you still learn a lot. Like learning just some of these guys, like especially the Antosaka, which sadly we kind of ran out of time there, but I think we kind of got the gist. Like, he's a big Antosaka fan, so it's just when you get 17 transfer editions, you kind of have to go through each one and what they bring on both sides of the ball. And we talked about a lot about like Isaiah Horton and others, kind of the guys who stand out. But when it comes down to, Marcel Reed playing better, what does he need to do? What are the specific things he needs to change? And I think Landon kind of laid it out perfectly, because we've been kind of saying the same thing. But when you're talking about a quarterback, it's the same when you're scouting a quarterback for the NFL. You're just looking at these intangibles. You're looking at the tangibles and the intangibles and the general attributes. But is he a winner? How does he play late in the season? I mean, the Ray Coney thing was perfectly said. It was like, when you talk about Ray Coney, yeah, the PFF numbers are great, but you look at how many tackles. Yeah, but how many tackles did he have in these games? How did he play at the end of the year? How did he play in these big games? Were there just a lot of kind of cleanup tackles, or was he making an impact on third down? You know, all those things that matter, because it's the stat watching thing. It's like helmet watching. It's not going to help you when you're trying to figure out if a player is going to be good in your system. So that's why Landon and others exist. That's why these guys are out there just crunching the film, getting down to the nitty gritty, and then giving us stuff to talk about, because, you know, we're giving our opinions here, but getting that outside opinion, getting that opinion of a guy who played college football, who's been surrounded by it forever, because my football days ended pretty early. And I'm guessing so did yours if you did play. And I mean, we kind of go into this industry where we kept to continually learn all the time, because some things you just don't remember, especially some scheme things. I'm always having to learn more stuff, especially like when Wiggins takes over. It's going to be, you know, what's he going to do differently? And we're going to have to learn about that. So, but yeah, just awesome dude. We will definitely have him back on the show during this season. I would be remiss not to talk about, obviously, Mike Elko and Holman Wiggins and Lyle Humphrey talking today. I think they had a lot of good things to say. I think it was generally what we expected in terms of, you know, spring ball starting officially on Friday, you know, kind of outlining who's going to be available. It was great news, actually, really broken by Jackson Callaway, our buddy at On3, who said that Jerome Miles, obviously former 5-star wide receiver, is going to be back. Elko confirmed that he's going to be back in limited fashion, which means he'll take part in practice. Just, it's not going to be too heavy, you know, just get him back in the swing of things. I did mention guys like Papa Afua, who's a very intriguing offensive lineman who missed all last season. And then a couple 25 starters, Des Ricks and others who were dealing with some offseason getting banged up at the end of the year. And they'll be limited as well. And then Dejan Petaway, who is a defensive back, and freshman defensive lineman Jermaine Kinsler will be out for long-term, most likely long-term injuries, but we'll get updates on that. But that overall good news. They're going to be very healthy going to spring. That's all that matters, right? Because you remember the whole, you know, Le'Veon Moss watch. Like, I mean, it kind of sucked, and I hated it for that kid, because it's like, is he going to see the field? What's his actual status? You know, we're not dealing with that anymore, which I think is healthy for this roster. Moss is attempting to have a long and healthy NFL career, so we can now focus on the healthy guys and moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. We've also like put it down in the description, but there were guys that you and I were kind of thinking, or maybe it was even mentioned over the fall games and into the winter, like a guy like Tom Johnson, you and I have discussed behind the scenes, could take a step up after his surgery that he had during the season. That's why he showed up on all the injury reports. But, you know, guys that are being limited right now, I think that Mike Elko, when he was on the podium today, he was just nonchalant. He was like, hey, these guys are going to be back. I mean, Des Ricks, Dalton Brooks, those are key guys of their defense heading into the fall. It is sad that, you know, Jermaine Kinsler and Dejan Petaway are dealing with those long-term injuries.
But they're development players, so it's like, it's a little better because they have time to, you know, get healthy, learn the system.
Right, exactly. And it's all for and I think it was Lyle Hemphill saying today, like, they are trying insistently to get faster, right? Yeah. That was what he said. He is just working on becoming faster. And he kept it really short, really sweet. It was like, hey, faster literally means faster. So that was really what I took away from today. I don't know if you have any other things on it.
All right. Yeah, that kind of flamed out for a second.
I don't know why.
I don't know what happened there. I was like, you stopped, and then it just kind of went black.
Yeah. Like I was saying, like he was talking, or Lyle Hemphill was talking about getting faster. So kind of any takeaways with that from today?
Like I said before that, whatever just happened. He, you know, first of all, loved how Elko was playing coy, basically talking about if he's going to call defensive play. We don't know. Like, I think it's going to be a 50-50 thing. I think maybe Lyle's going to be more involved in the overall defensive play calling, while Elko's still going to be the third down guy. That could easily be the case because I think he does trust Lyle. Lyle has been a defensive coordinator before, had a lot of success at James Madison. So I think I don't think that was ever going to be a question when he got the job, because I think he is kind of like Wiggins is, in my opinion. Just he trusts them completely. Like these are smart dudes who Wiggins kind of said the same thing today, like working with a lot of different guys over the years. So not that he's like telling reporters, I know what I'm doing, so trust me. He's just saying, look, I've been around the block. I'm going to continue learning, but at the same time, I was with this offense last year. There's some new names here, but I think I have a pretty good hold on things. And I think Lyle's the same way, like talking about man. That's what we do. We are a man coverage defense. So you need speed. You need to be able to go against some of the best athletes that are littered in the SEC, no matter the school. I mean, look what Vanderbilt did last year with a lot of kind of no-name guys, but there's a lot of speed on that offense. And there are a lot of explosive plays, even with a quarterback like Diego Pavia, who was he measured at 5'9", making plays. So it doesn't
like
matter.
Insanely small.
Exactly. It doesn't even matter, small, big, whatever. I mean, if you got speed kills. So you got to match that on defense. And I think that was the problem at safety last year against Texas. I think you and I talked after that. It was a while ago now, and I think I was sick actually. But we talked after the loss. It's kind of a blur. But I think the biggest thing that stood out was a lack of speed in the secondary, going against guys like Jack Endress, that tight end who just had a wide open catch, and Marcus Radcliffe was behind the sticks, and there was a lot of issues there where, like Landon, when Landon was breaking down Tavik Byard, I think that's going to clean up a lot of things. I think and Dalton Brooks is one of their best athletes, and I think getting him and Radcliffe back to get faster, work on speed this offseason. I know a lot of that's natural, but you can work on those type of things. Maybe that's losing a little weight. Maybe that's, balancing out your muscle fat dynamic. But again, Tommy Moffitt can take care of that. They're going to, Moffitt's going to be talking to the coaching staff what they need from these certain players, what their training regimen needs to be. But I think that added depth in the secondary is going to help everything. And I do think that Ricky Gibson, who, did not play last season. I mean, he only played one game, was injured. He's 100% fresh. He's ready to get back on the field. He's not dealing with any nagging anything. This was early in the year, so he's really completely recovered. Similar to Jerome Miles in that way, who did get, if he was going to get injured, it was good that he got injured early and not late and having to miss all the spring and then rehab. So this time then maybe be available because we now know he's going to be healthy, barring any setbacks, knock on wood, going into the fall. But having Gibson, having Des Ricks come back, these are two very competent NFL level cornerbacks, and then having the added depth there. But like I said, you and I both agree, Landon does too. This safety rotation is going to be key to everything they do, both in coverage and in terms of their pass rush and what they can do in the multiple looks that Elko wants to do on third down. I mean, those athletes are going to be a big part of that, not just their edge rushers, not just Saka, not just, Marco Jones and others. It's going to take a big part of that, and athleticism and speed is basically going to be the reason A&M's defense is one of the best in the SEC.
Yeah, they've wanted over the past couple of years to get stronger, right? That was getting people into the program who are athletes. And now I think Lyle Hemphill said it today. He's the yin to Mike Elko's yang. He's which a great comment, right?
True,
but, getting faster with the strength that they're doing is really all about the conditioning and the mentality or philosophy. It's philosophy tweaks. It's not philosophy changes, but it is philosophy tweaks going into year 3. So I'm very interested to see how that works out with Lyle Hemphill, especially because of the familiarity he has with Mike Elko's defense and everything that goes along with it. And I think from today, when Holman Wiggins got up there, it just seemed like there was an air of gratefulness, right? I mean, he was a guy that has been around for multiple years under different, championship level programs, most recently being under Nick Saban at Alabama as like one of their main guys on the offensive coaching staff. I mean, he's developed multiple wide receivers into being NFL talents, most notably Devonta Smith with the Philadelphia Eagles and Heisman winner. So him being able to step up into the role of offensive coordinator. And he said after their playoff game, I believe is the exact quote, that Mike Elko kind of pulled him aside and said, "Hey, I want you to be my offensive coordinator." I mean, we were kind of assuming this all along, but sometimes it is just as simple as that. Is sometimes choosing the right person, maybe internal, maybe external. And Mike Elko said that today, where hey, we're going to know what's best for our program. And in this instance, it was going to be Holman Wiggins the entire time.
Yeah, and I think grateful is the right word, because when you've been around the block, excuse me, and you've had some opportunities, like we don't know, like if he would have stayed with Alabama, possibly under Nick Saban, and maybe he just continues to impress as an assistant coach. Maybe he does get that job. We never know, right? Because it was hard to ever know that. There was a lot of that whole coaching rehab, as we used to call it, where these guys who maybe got in trouble, or these coaches who kind of fell off, they got an opportunity with Alabama to kind of reignite their career. Steve Sarkisian was one of those guys dealing with some personal issues, really reignited his career as OC, that was the year that Devonta Smith won the Heisman. That was the year that they won the national championship. And then he gets hired at Texas and has been there ever since, for going to his 6th season. So, I mean, it is hard to know. Maybe that's why he took this opportunity, that one day he could become offensive coordinator. But none of that's known, right? Colin Klein could have stayed in that job for a long time. If he wanted to come back next year, he certainly could have. Obviously, that opportunity with Kansas State opened up. And who knows, Holman Wiggins maybe wants to be a head coach one day. We don't know. I mean, that's probably a dream of his. I would think it's most coaches' dreams. But I think the best quote he had today, outside of talking about, trusting the coaching staff around him, the guys they've hired, all these assistants, he's got a lot of smart guys in that room. Yes, Joey Lynch is one of those guys who's just been around the block, who's worked with a ton of quarterbacks. I think he had the best quote. Actually wrote an article about that today that will be released tomorrow, just talking about how, centering his offense around the skill set they have, the guys they have, and Marcel Reed. Because, I mean, offensive coordinators are interesting, because Buster Faulkner, who's leaving Georgia Tech to join Florida, is Aaron Philo going to be the guy? There are Florida analysts out there going, we don't know yet. We really don't. I mean, there's a lot of questions there. Spring ball is going to answer some of them, but really going into the fall and going to fall camp, we don't know. I mean, is he going to be the best fit for what Buster Faulkner wants to run? So for A&M, I think it's just way easier that you have a guy who you trust. You're getting a lot of good coaches around him to help him out, to help him transition, and you're giving him an offense that he's already familiar with outside of new additions, the offensive line. Isaiah Horton now at wide receiver, which only helps you. I mean, that's not like something you have to worry about. That just helps your job. But having Marcel Reed at the helm again, and with Lynch and them kind of working together, figuring out what they need to do this offseason outside of what Marcel's already doing to kind of become that full-fledged star quarterback that does mirror Lamar Jackson, which we will continue to say, because I think Landon was right. Same move, same kind of skill set. It's like he has that potential there. It's just
is that the agenda we're pushing now, is the Lamar Jackson?
I mean, people don't like it, but let's be honest, they are that good of athletes. And he just is. Like, when Marcel is on, he's one of the best athletes in the country. When he's off, he looks pedestrian. I think a lot of people like to go to the whole pedestrian look because they like to do that sometimes. I mean, I don't know, man. It's just what I see. So okay. I'm in that camp of.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Oh, I know, but like, I'm in that camp of, this is an elite athlete, and if he has another great offseason and fixes those and tinkers with those issues he has, and finally shows up late in the season against these bigger opponents and these gotta have it games. This year it's going to be on the road against Oklahoma, and then again the Texas Longhorns, who they have not beaten yet. You got to play well in those games. You got to continue playing well on the road early and late in the season. And so, but I think for Wiggins, having that continuity is so important for him in his first season, because I know, and Lennon kind of mentioned that, like, a lot of people are going to question that, like, why don't you just go get a new guy who's going to install a new system? That could go completely haywire, and that could be destructive for Marcel Reed. And I think if you feel like he's just a couple tweaks away from becoming like a Heisman level quarterback and being the reason A&M wins games at the end of the season, not the reason they almost lost, I mean, what better for a coordinator he's not going to be scared either, right? Because he feels he's got a pretty good grasp on this program already, being here the last 2 years, coaching the wide receivers, who are a big part of their offense, obviously. So I don't think the passing game is going to change much. But, our biggest thing, what we talked about with Landon, this run game needs to improve. This O-line needs to – it might not match what it was last year, but it needs to be better than good. And A&M could be one of the best offenses in the country, because I truly do believe in Wiggins. I could be wrong. I think both of us could be. But I listen to him today. He's calm. He's cool. I mean, there's no air of arrogance or anything like that. Like, he's not saying, well, I deserved this. I've been waiting. Like, this is just something like if Elko's going to give you this job, you better take it and run with it and do your best damn job you can, because like he could take it away immediately. We've seen Elko make changes in the offseason if something's not working. So this is a temporary gig, right? And this is the time to kind of show up and be like, hey, I can do this. I can be a potential head coach one day, because this is a big year. Because when your starting quarterback is returning after throwing for 3,000 plus yards and 25 touchdowns, yes, focused on those losses, focused on the loss to Miami. I'm glad Landon called out the wind. That was a big part of it. Like, I think a lot of people are just going to always pay attention to his failures and throwing that pick at the end of the game. But I don't think anybody could have played in that win. I think the only reason Miami won was because that run at the end of the game. I mean, we just don't know anymore, but there's enough there, and the film speaks for itself, that make those tweaks. If the coaching comes through, this is going to be a very, very, very good offense. But overall, that was my general takeaway with both those guys. I think it was the right hires.
It's always inherent risk when you internally hire from both coordinator positions. So we're both bullish on it. So
it's not based in fact. It's based in me watching both of them over the last 10 plus years, kind of knowing what they're about, kind of knowing what they're good at, what they're not good at. Lyle Humphrey was someone I wasn't familiar with 10 years ago, but I was familiar with him during his time at Duke, during his time at James Madison. That's somebody I completely trust, because I just think he's a great defensive mind. And I think Elko could tell you, look, I have full confidence in this guy. With Wiggins, let's remember how he hired Colin Klein. It was a meeting, and it was like, I like how you call plays, you're hired. Okay. Now he's got a guy who he's been around, he knows well. And I guarantee they had quick off-season talks when Colin Klein was close to taking that job at K-State. And he's probably like, look, you're my guy. I trust you. Okay. It's your job now. So, I mean, it's the whole thing of, if these coaches continue to develop and become their best selves under Elko, he's going to look like a kingmaker similar to Nick Saban if these guys end up getting other jobs and just flourishing in their kind of 1 or 2 year rental years as a coordinator. So not a ton to take away. There's some good quotes about players, and Ricky Gibson, obviously more praise there, Ray Coney, and then obviously Isaiah Horton, another guy who just, again,
he's just going to stick out no matter what.
He is, yeah. It's hard to ignore him, right? It's hard to ignore Horton's size and ability, and being that he was like the second best receiver on that Alabama team, and that he could end up being maybe the best overall receiver outside of Mario Craver, who's obviously just a stud. Ashton Bethel-Roman, I mean, I get excited even just talking about it, because like Landon knows, like the rest of us, like Ashton Bethel-Roman is a dude, and he's one of the toughest guys on this roster. And I guarantee he's excited to get even stronger and faster and be that second, third option in that offense. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm very bullish, like you said, on Marcel Reed. I'm bullish on this coaching staff. And so, that's just my take right now. It could change, but going into spring ball, I'm excited to see with 5 a lot of media sessions that we're going to get to see these guys practice. I think we're going to learn a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of what this offense, especially the speed on defense, right? I think that's the biggest thing. We're going to see that in practice, how much faster these guys are and how fast these new additions are. So for end of the show, we can't not mention that Texas A&M was invited to the NCAA tournament. They will be taking part in March Madness as the 10 seed facing 7 seed St. Mary's. So my general scouting analysis, one of my Radford Aggies wire, who is actually a basketball coach in his own right, did kind of a breakdown today. Biggest thing is the size difference. They've got 3 guys who are over 7 foot. Okay, I get it. So
it's the big boys versus the fast boys.
Exactly. It's a pace game. It's turn them over early, hit your open shots, hope to get a lead early, and then just keep that momentum going. Play that press defense, get them frustrated, force bad shots, but don't let them get going inside and just kind of bully you, because we saw that against Florida where, they did try to feed Rashawn Aggie a little too much after they were just missing all their threes. They just couldn't buy a shot. I don't think we're going to see that again, knock on wood. But, if they're shooting above 45% from 3, they have a good shot at this game. I mean, I just
100% they do.
I think this is really just based on, if your offense doesn't show up, it's going to be hard, because when you do have that size and you can't match it at all outside of like Federico and Jimmy Vincent to a point. He's about 6'10". You're going to have to rely on Rashawn Agee anyways to make plays, kind of play that five-man. Crap, I'm thinking of something else right now. Be that point forward, I guess that he's one of the best passers. Be that facilitator as a big man. He's going to have to do that again. But either way, I think it's going to be an exciting game because I think both these teams are going to be ready to go. A&M will now have a week to prepare for this. Like that's huge because I think this team needed that time to rest, get ready for this potential tourney run. And if they do win, I believe they play Houston in Houston. If Houston obviously gets past their first round.
You never know. Idaho could pull out something.
Yeah, we'll see. They're not a bad team. I'll give Idaho that.
They're not a bad team, but you said it yourself. If A&M can hit their threes and potentially cause turnovers against a team in St. Mary's that does not turn the ball over a lot at all. I believe they take care of the ball as a top 25 in turnover margin, like retaining it. So they rebound just as well as you might think 7-footers to rebound well enough, but their pace of play is slow. Their offensive game is slow. They take their time. They're methodical. They don't turn over the ball. They hit free throws like an elite team. So if A&M can turn over the Gales and hit their threes, they could probably run away with this. It's an entirely first half dependent game. That's what this game is going to be, and that's how it's going to end. So keep an eye on the first half for this. If A&M is able to run out in front, Aggies may be able to run away with this. If not, and it goes to a slow grind, St. Mary's may pull out a win in this one.
Yeah, there's been some. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this one, to be honest with you. I'm just I'm really just up and down about it because I hate when they do this in the tournament where it's just a huge size mismatch. I think that A&M was going to have that issue anyways because I think they're one of the smaller teams, especially among the Power 4 teams in the tournament, that are just going to deal with that anyways. So,
right.
I mean, look, it's fun though because you heard how excited the guys were on CBS. I'm like, Buckyball's going to the tournament. I'm like, see, they're excited because I think they believe personally. I know Jay Bills didn't pick him, whatever. But he had good points, but still. I think a lot of people want to see Buckyball move on. I think that they think if they can put it together, they have a chance to do something potentially special because when this team is on, they are one of the better offensive teams in the country. And like I said, and kind of like my rundown after the announcement was made, the size is one thing, yes. But if they play like they did against Kentucky in the second half, they have a shot to beat anybody outside of, some of the best teams in the country because it's just a lot of people are picking chalk this year because there's a lot of really good teams. But look, they have a shot like anybody else. It's called March Madness for a reason, but making it to the NCAA tournament is a big deal on its own. Like we have to remember that. Doing this in year one, being picked 13th before the season, Bucky inherited one player from this roster where Buzz Williams just took everybody. He had to scour the transportable players. The fact that they are playing in the NCAA tournament on Thursday is a huge accomplishment, even if they do end up losing that game. But we think they're going to win. I'm picking them still. Look, who cares? I'm going to put my bracket together tonight probably. And I think Carter Carroll said it best today. If you use auto select on your bracket, you're not a basketball fan. So don't do that. Take the time to pick out the teams. If you like upsets, pick them out. Don't just auto select.
If you like the mascots, pick them out.
Yeah, pick it. Do whatever you want, but pick by higher or lower number. Who cares?
Here, this is our message now. Make the bracket yours.
Yeah, exactly. Because you want to look. We're all scared AI is going to take over anyway. So you want AI to make your damn bracket. I mean, come on, guys.
I guarantee you, Cameron's going to have his bracket on that free spot right above his TV.
I had it done yesterday, and then it got deleted, so I have to do it again.
All I'm hearing are excuses.
No, it did. I had a good one too. I really used my head. I used all that watching. I did all your so. Okay. So as always, you can follow the show. We're going to be posting videos throughout the week on YouTube. Kind of all the breakdowns of Landon, talking about all the offense, defense additions, everything. I mean, it's all going to be there in like 15-minute videos. So there's going to be a lot of content there for you to watch this week. You can always follow me at Cameron Ohnysty. Follow all my work at Aggies Wire, part of USA Today Sports. Kannon, always at Torres Kannon. Great follow on X. I'm really not a great follow on X. I'm barely on there, but do it anyways. Where can everybody follow you? Your Patreon.
Yeah, you can follow me over at Bell Tower Intel on Patreon for your recruiting needs for Aggie football and basketball.
All right. We'll be back next Tuesday night. We'll be talking a lot of spring ball practice stuff. What we saw, we will know, obviously, if A&M got to the Sweet 16 or lost in the first round by that point. So that's always fun because, I forget how chaotic tournament week is when it happens because it just kind of comes and goes. And it's like, that's kind of the fun of it. But, hey, we'll be moving on to football completely outside of baseball. But this is a football
guys.
Show. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday. Gig 'em as always. Hope you enjoy the show, and we'll see you then.